Practice D-VXR-DY-01 Dell VxRail Deploy version 2 Real dumps for best preparation. 1. What does the election service use to determine the primary node on a VxRail cluster? A. PSNT. B. Lowest IP received by DHCP server. C. Service tag. D. manually entered during setup. Answer. A. 2. Which kind of manual configuration is required when deploying VxRail using an external DNS? A. Create the forward records for the vCenter server, SC hosts, the jump host VM and the VxRail Manager VM. B. Create the forward and reverse records for the vCenter server, SC hosts, and the VxRail Manager VM. C. Create the forward records for the vCenter server, SC hosts, the cluster, and the VxRail Manager VM. D. Create the forward and reverse records for the vCenter server, the jump host VM and the VxRail Manager VM. Answer. B. 3. What are two requirements for a customer-managed vCenter for a VxRail cluster? Select 2. A. Deploy an internal DNS server. B. Specify an external management network for VxRail Manager. C. Create DNSA records for vMotion and vSAN IP addresses. D. Create DNSA records for management IP addresses. Answer. BD. 4. What is the first step in preparing for VxRail configuration validation and deployment file creation where all the VxRail variables are defined? A. Enter configuration information using a wizard. B. Initiate BOM using the Dell support portal. C. Create the JSON file. D. Create the YAML file. Answer. A. 5. A VxRail cluster is being deployed with a customer-managed vCenter server. Which role must be assigned to the new VxRail management user account within vCenter server? A. Administrator role. B. Read-only role. C. No role needs to be assigned. D. Trusted Infrastructure Administrator role. Answer. A. 6. An administrator is preparing to deploy a new VxRail cluster to an existing customer-supplied vCenter. This is the first VxRail cluster that is connected to the SSO domain of the vCenter. After creating the VxRail vCenter server management user, what should the administrator do to ensure that the appropriate permissions are assigned to the new account? A. Assign the VMware HCIA management role on the vCenter server object. B. Assign the administrator role on the vCenter server object. C. Run the VxRail deployment wizard. D. Run the Dell-provided customer-managed vCenter preparation script. Answer. D. 7. Which vCenter server option must be selected in the VxRail deployment wizard to choose a vCenter not hosted within the same cluster? A. Internal, VxRail Manager Service. B. External vCenter server. C. VxRail provided vCenter server. D. Customer provided vCenter server. Answer. D. 8. A VxRail cluster with vSAN OSA has been deployed. The administrator notices that deduplication and compression are not enabled. What is the reason for this issue? A. Nodes are configured with hybrid drives. B. Nodes are configured with a single disk group. C. The service is disabled by default. D. The vSAN licensing is missing. Answer: A. 9. What is the name of the default port group with VLAN Idaho 3939 on an unconfigured VxRail node? A. Private Discovery Network. B. Private Management Network. C. Discovery Network. D. Management Network. Answer: C. 10. When following Dell best practices, which two roles are required to create additional vCenter server administrator accounts? A. VxRail Administrator Global. B. VxRail HCIA Administrator Global. C. VxRail Initial Global. D. VxRail Data Center Global. Answer: BD.